So let's go back and let's talk about why did I decide to do this today? Well, for a long time, I've had other people say, why don't you make a YouTube channel? You should make a YouTube channel. You've got some very strong opinions about the dating world and about life and about values and about employment and about all kinds of stuff that not everybody's willing to say. Why don't you do that? What do you got to lose? You've got a full-time job doing something else. Why would it matter? True, true. Yeah, I'm kind of lazy too. So I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. There's all kinds of other life coaches out there. I don't even want to post myself as a kind of therapist, even though I have a lot of education in regards to that. Um, I don't want to do that. I just have opinions. So I would just share my opinions with my friends and only close friends because some of my opinions don't align with current popular trends. There's a lot of reasons for that, which maybe in another video I'll go over why there is such a distinct difference between how I see the world and how I won't say common, it's not common. Well, it could be considered common, popular opinion about different things, politically correct or otherwise, are perceived, or things, activities, behaviors of different ages, genders, all of that. And so I wanted to title this video something, and I wanted the title of this video to be very misleading, intentionally misleading, simply because I want to get people's attention um, about why I named it the way that I did. So I think I'm going to title this video Unsung Heroes in relation towards men. Now, when you hear a woman's voice and something like that topic, and you're like, oh, she's going to go and she's going to talk about how horrible men are and blah, 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 it is actually the reverse. And let me explain why. My thought is this. Since I'm a gamer, of course, I'm around a lot of people who are in different age ranges, most of which, guys and or females, are going to be, depending on the type of games you play, could be between the age ranges of, let's say, I'm not even going to go under 18 because, that's not an area I would address, but let's say 20 to say maybe 30. All right. Why do I pick those age ranges? Okay, here's why I pick those age ranges. Number one, and I got to make sure when I'm playing this game and I get in combat, or you're going to hear some words that aren't necessarily appropriate. Because I do game. That's what I do. But yeah, I just walked in an area. It was pretty cool. But if you think, let's take the life cycle of a male and a female. If you're talking normal, timeline. Now, when I say normal timeline, I am not talking culturally. I'm talking biologically, okay? Because there is a huge difference between men and women's behavior in these different age groupings that is not related to their behavior culturally is actually not reflective of what would be behaviorally. Like, in other words, they're not incongruence at all. There's a big incongruence or discongruence. So let's kind of talk about that. Here's what I mean by that. So females. Let's go females. Females, usually they start, recognizing guys exist. Usually middle school. Maybe it depends. It kind of depends, but usually middle school they're like, oh, that boy is cute. sometimes in elementary school, but in elementary school, it's more like, boy, that kid is cute. When we have Valentine's Day, I'm going to give him a Valentine because my mom bought a bunch of Valentines. And oh, he thought I was cute. Usually, developmentally speaking, that's as far as that goes. It isn't until you get into middle school that okay, I really think they're cute. You've got some, prepubescent hormones going there, and you're really, really, really thinking how really, really, really cute they are, and oh, you wish they would notice you, and you get the heartbreak. You get he dated me for 2 weeks, and he likes my best friend, and he's gone, but you don't even call it dating. You call it going with. I am going with so and so. He is my boyfriend. You don't say the dating. Dating gives off the reflection that you are giving someone a try, with intention to possibly, eventually, it could form into some kind of other relationship. All right. In middle school, it's more like I'm going with and I'm going to marry this person. I mean, and that's how sometimes females' brain works when you're in middle school. And those of you who are listening to this who are female, you're probably like, yeah, I remember that stuff. I remember I had this guy, I thought this boy, and you called it boy back then, not guy. But this boy, he was so cute, and oh, I thought he was so amazing, and he liked my friend Melissa because Melissa had the newest backpack, or Melissa brand, whatever. There's always like reasons that were just so inconsequential when you think of them now, but back then, your whole world was destroyed if the boy in middle school you liked did not like you. Heartbreak hit then. Okay, that's when heartbreak hit for females, is usually middle school. All right, then you get to high school. Then the female libido is still going, but she's now affected more with the whole cultural, do I go out with this dude because I thought he's cute, but is he popular? But does he have a car? But does he have this? But does he have the latest iPhone? Or, are his parents rich? Where does he live? That kind of stuff started in high school. So we're talking 16, 17 years old, right? And you got to think, if you're a parent of a teenager, and of a girl especially, nowadays, parents, regardless if there's one, two in the home, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anybody who's in charge of a child before the age of 18, call them parents, call them whatever, most of the time, regardless of how attentive or inattentive or how great or how wonderful, not wonderful, they're like, yeah, you need to make sure you get a guy that's got money who can take care of you. You make sure you get a guy, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Now, that has always been something that has been a thing. Okay? That has always been a thing. All right? Want a guy that can take care of you. Now, if you take those words, take care of you, this is where the whole unsung hero comes in. Years and years and years and years and years and years before that. Years and years and years. I'm not going to say when they have princes and princesses, dragons, I'm getting that way back. It was not just a matter of taking care of you money. It was physically protecting you against bad things. You get against bad people, against wilderness, if you talk about way back, but there was always, the idea was men physically protect you, okay, from whatever. So that was how a man was judged his value. Taking care of me wasn't just about money. It was about being physically taken care of, protected by a man. Okay? Now, as time goes by and we get, closer, I'm not going to do a big jump in time frames here, but a bigger jump in time, you start to look at, okay, what does physically protect mean? used to mean, having muscles, being physically strong, you know, having a commanding presence where if you walk down the street with your woman and some guy, acted like they were going to pickpocket or rob you or something, you could just growl in their direction and bam. You're like, back off, boy, or whatever it is. I can't do. I know I can go low on my voice, but I do voice acting stuff, so okay. But you get my gist. You're able to physically protect your woman, and usually that means being bigger, physically bigger, or physically stronger. Now, back then, back then, and in certain cultures, it didn't matter if you were overweight bigger or you were fit bigger. You just had to be able to do what it took to protect your woman. That's it. That's all that mattered. Is do what you have to do to protect your woman. All right. Now we get closer to this day and age. All right. And once it became, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, so don't start jumping at me on this one, but once it became a thing where men and women started to get jobs, they started to work outside the house. Now, I'm going to go back a tiny bit in time because if you remember, there were times in war where men got drafted or men, it was a thing to sign up for the military and people wanted to go. Whatever the reason was, men became involved in the military and that left women to have to support themselves because there were no men here. Like the men were gone. Now, what does that mean for the female? That meant the female had to get jobs. Okay? So women at that point were not only taking care of kids. Sometimes the women would group together with family, live sometimes together, but, for safety, greater in numbers, and they would take turns working, supporting the kids, whatever. And they started working, some of them, in factories. Okay? So you would have some women who would actually work in factories. And that would be how they would make money. And so, you'd have women like in groups taking care of children and then working in factories. So women started to learn or figure out what it meant or what it felt like to work outside the home. Okay? Now, don't draw the conclusion, oh, she's saying men went to war. That means all of a sudden it's men's fault that women have women. Don't even start playing that game with me because that's bullshit. You know it is. I know it is. Let's go back and let's talk about where women learned that they could theoretically support themselves. And that's when they figured it out. Is they started learning warily, back then, I'm doing this for my man to support my family. That was their belief system. My man is over there honorably serving in the war to protect our great country, and I'm honored and I'm proud. And as a woman, I'm going to do my duty to support, my family, keep our house going, keep the children going, safe, protected, doing the moral and valuable, responsible things for their life so that I represent my man and my family well. That was the woman thing, okay? And so women had a great deal of honor and value in working, but it wasn't just to support themselves. It was to support the family unit and to represent and honor for their family unit. Okay? So, that was the thing. Now, there's a big change that has happened over society in the last years. And so I pose this question. How do you show honor, or how do you honor your partner? Okay? So some people are like, what are you talking about? Honor your partner. If you love your partner, right? If you love them, they are close to your heart, That means you value them, right? You can't not value somebody and love them. You have to value them, right? Okay. So let's say you value your partner greatly, right? Honor, what does honor mean? So honor, I would think, no, I'm not sitting in front of a dictionary. I'm sitting in front of a video game trying to get across a freaking continent because I am actually, while I'm talking to you guys, mining materials. Don't ask why. I guess it's easier for me to do it this way. Like I said, I'm a gamer chick. So let's say, all right, honor. How do you honor a man? Or how do you honor a woman? Okay? Even take it that direction. The way you honor someone is you take their needs into consideration, their values into consideration, and your goal is to represent yourself in a way that would be assisting their needs, or you could say honor, like even if you talk to a judge, your honor. It means that you are taking what the judge says as being important, right? Okay. Or as being something some people it's like you have to, but that you find important. So, how do you honor a partner? Whether you're male or female, how do you honor a partner? Well, you think about what it is that they would want you to do or find appropriate, that would make their feelings feel good, or whatever the reason, however you want to go there with all of this. All right? And that's how you act in front of them as well as behind their back. That's honor. Okay. So when women went to work, because men were out doing, they wanted to honor their mate. Okay? So then here's a question. Nowadays, in today's culture, think about this. This is for my ladies and this is for my men. How do people honor their chosen, I don't know if you want to call it boyfriend, girlfriend, mate, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. How do people honor, because we're going to make the assumption, if you love someone, like if somebody says, yes, I absolutely love my boyfriend, good, wonderful. How do you honor them? How does someone honor their chosen, boyfriend or whatever? How do you do that? Right? How, like, if you're sitting there watching, a movie and it shows an actress who supposedly is in a relationship, blah, 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 how does that person honor their mate or their boyfriend or their partner, however you want to call it? How do they do that? In today's world, well, I've heard people say, well, if you honored your girlfriend, you would buy them the most expensive ring. Okay. What else? How do you honor a man? Think about it. When you watch a lot of these TikTok videos, these YouTube videos, where they talk to women on the street and the women say, oh, I want a man who's 6 foot tall. I want them to have 6-pack abs. I want them to make 6 figures. All right, what are you bringing to the table? What do you mean? What am I bringing to the table? They are lucky to even have me. Okay, how do you honor your man? Some of them, some females nowadays can't even agree that being with just that one man, faithful to that one man sexually, they can't even agree that that's okay. They can't even agree to be platonic with that one person. They want to, or they'll say, I am only for this one man. Okay, let's look up your face on Tinder. Bam, cheated. I mean, that's my point, is in their heart, if you love someone, how do you honor them? Right? And it annoys me when I see all these females out here saying, there is no good men around. There is good men around. There is. And I think the discrepancy between what men and um, what men are trying to do in the dating field and what women are trying to do are completely different things. It's like they're on two different types of planets. We got two sets of aliens here. Nobody is together on nothing. And, you know, but the point is, let's go back. Women honored their men when they went to work to perform for the family. Okay? Now, biologically, we're looking at how culture has shifted over time. Biologically, when you hit about the age between 35 and 40, yes, the possibility of you healthfully being healthy and going through childbirth starts to get more difficult. So, over the course, let's take a look. Over the course of history, if you go back from now, like today is day 0, and you go back to 40 years prior, whatever age that is, all right, look at the culture. What were females doing, let's say 20 years ago, right? Which would be like the 2000s. So in the 2000s, any women who were in their 20s, what were they doing? At that point, women were getting jobs. Women were getting jobs. More women were going to college. Women were, headed towards STEM degrees. All of this, right? Okay, so we got that part. All right. So the idea of honoring your man 20 years ago, what would that have looked like? Or men honoring women. Take it the other way. Okay? How would you, back in the year 2000, if you're 20 years old, and I know many of the people listening to this are going to be younger than that. I know, but we're starting from older and going now. Okay? So if you are 20 years old back in the 2000s, how would you honor a woman? Or how would you honor a man? Was it based on your value system, where your values was based on people's perception of you? Would it be based on family, having children? Would it be based on, even if you couldn't have children or didn't want to have children, just making a home with your partner, your significant other, and the honor that you would draw to that? Probably not. It had already started to shift by that point. All right? So now let's take it further. So we're talking the 2000s, right? And yeah, internet was there. I don't think it was nearly as crazy as it is now with TikTok and all of that. But now, let's go even further. Let's add another 10 years to that, all right? So we're at 2000s. Let's go to 2010s. Anyone who was 20 in the age of 2010, how did you honor your partner or show love to your partner? How did men show love or honor or support for the women, and how did women show honor and support for the men? Now, for those of you, when I say those words, who get sick to your stomach, what do you mean honor them? What do you mean? That right there is the problem. That is the problem. That is the issue. Think about it. If love means you also honor, and you're saying that when I say the words, how, if you are in 2010 and you're 20 years old, how do you love or honor a person, a partner, a boyfriend, whatever the heck you want to call them, and you get sick to your stomach? What is that saying? What is that saying about your value of love? Period. Well, what do you mean I value love? Well, if you value love, you value honor. If you love your partner, you honor your partner, whether they're female or male. So why would me asking you how you do that make you sick? How? I can tell you why in a minute. I'll tell you why. All right. So now let's go on. We're at 2010. Let's go to 2020. Let's say at 2020, you're 20 years old. Okay. Which you can't be. But let's pretend. Let's pretend. Okay. How do you think somebody would show love or honor towards their partner, male or female? Would it be how many followers on Instagram? Would it be, um, you know, what types of websites they look at? Would it be how much money they make? Would it be what their career choice is? Not how much money, their choice. Here's the reason why for that. I bet you didn't know this. Electricians who only really have to go to trade school to learn how to be an electrician make a hell of a lot more money than many middle management jobs coming out of college. So you can look nice and fancy with your little diploma and make less than an electrician. But if you're an electrician and you go into a dating pool and you see new young females who are looking for the lawyer, the doctor, they're not going to look at an electrician where they would have looked at an electrician years and years and years ago, because that would have marked a stability. And in today's market for jobs, there are some people coming out with diplomas that are not employable. They just aren't. There is no job for them, or the job market is saturated, where you can't get a job because everybody majored in this thing and nobody can get a job. Nobody's got experience, and here comes AI. So that is my point. I'm not downing AI. I'm just saying we all know AI being introduced has affected the job market. However you want to call it, good, bad, or indifferent, is irrelevant, but it has affected the availability of lower beginning entry level jobs. Let's just say that. Well, if AI coming in affects entry level jobs for males getting out of college right now, which normally males are going to major in things that are more industry, computers, things of that nature, STEM included, or even maybe lawyers, all of that. If AI has affected that entry level position where they can't get jobs, what that means is for males is they might not get a job till they're in their 30s, simply because AI has replaced that level, the entry level for them. Because let's say they get out of college, I'm just going to make guesses here, 23, 24. You can't find an entry level position, but you've got a college degree, and now these women want 6 figures. Who has the 6 figures? Who has the 6 figures? Men in their 40s and 50s, ladies. The age ranges are much higher because all the other stuff has taken away the bottom level. That means as AI comes more into place, the age ranges of men who are going to have that kind of money will be men in their 40s and 50s who are already ingrained in middle management and up, that have been there for a while before AI even started. So these women's looking for 650s out of 20 and 30-year-olds. It doesn't match the timeline. It doesn't match career studies. Especially with now AI. AI takes off that entry level. How do you get a non-entry level position when you have no internship experience, you have no job experience? But to get the kind of money a woman wants from TikTok, saying those figures, how are you going to get that? You can't even get into the market. Now, I'm not trying to talk shit about men. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the road for men to hit what these TikTok females are saying is an impossible journey. And then women wonder why their population has decreased. Your damn standards are way too high. And it's not because, oh, well, I should shoot high. You're shooting higher than the even job market is putting out there. There aren't enough men that hit that level simply because of economy, politics, AI, the college statistics, which I know a lot about that junk right there. So that's my point. All of these women who are telling men, we don't want you unless you are six figures, blah, blah, blah. Well, then go get a 50 or 60-year-old man, because that's the ones that have that. And the people nowadays that go into the tech and the STEM field, those positions are being removed from entry level. And if, depending on how good AI gets, could be middle management too. So ladies, you are thrusting yourself out of the job market or out of the men market, okay? So what happens? Men get depressed. Men start looking for, man, I gotta go hide because I got a sector weather alert. I'm in a game. But here's my thing. So now men have to go and try to get entry level jobs not in their field. Okay. So it's not in their field. What does that do to a man? Depression. They trained all this time to get into a field only to find out AI just wiped it out. Now you can't get a job. And honestly, a lot of people say, oh no, AI didn't. Yes, it has. I see statistics all the time. Well, then just go into AI. Yeah, I even researched that for myself. So I did a lot of statistical research on that. Now the AI market is getting flooded, because what happens when you have all these, computer science, mechanical engineering, civic engineering, electrical engineer people, all these people that went after these very high level intellect positions, thinking they'd get out of college and go get a job, and guess what? AI took it. AI took it. And here's something I want you to think about. Why would they let AI do that? And I'll get back to why this affects the dating market and all of that. The reason why is because middle management and higher don't necessarily right now have to worry about AI taking their job. Do they? So that's why. But what that does to the dating market for men is you've got men who can never reach that number, and it's killing them. It is making them depressed. It is making them isolate. It is making them hurt because they can never reach the goals that today's females have set for them. They just can't. If you're not born 6 feet, you're not born 6 feet. I'm sorry, but what does 6 feet do to protect you? Nothing. It does nothing. If you really want to look up at a man and be like, oh, and look up at his cute height, sit on his damn lap and look up. Better yet, I ain't going to say it. I thought it. I know you thought it too, but I don't want to get that rude. I'm trying not to. But point being, 6 foot means zero. It used to mean something years ago in being intimidated and protecting your physical well-being. With all the safety precautions put into place, that doesn't protect your safety anymore. It is an irrelevant statistic towards your success or your happiness. Okay? Height is nothing. 6-pack abs. Okay, so you got a guy that makes $30,000 a year, goes to a gym, busts his butt, has 6-pack abs, looks amazing. And then you come along and say, oh, but you got to have $100,000. Well, now he is disillusioned at, I'm trying to look good and nobody's going to want me because I don't. If you want the 6 figures, ladies, go to the 40s and 50s men and go find one that has a 6-pack ab. Good luck. The older you get, the harder it is to look white, the harder it is to look good. I'm not saying there isn't possible. It is. You've got great looking guys out there that are in their 40s and 50s, especially Gen X. I'm going to tell you something. Gen X, we are the aliens. Not going to lie. But every Gen X individual, man or woman I have ever seen, looks 20 years younger than they should. So there's a lot of good looking men out there in their 40s and 50s. But I'm telling you, ladies, if you're sitting here waiting for that 25-year-old to hit the six figures, when AI has been cut out, the only way in the next 10 years, while AI is taking over, the only people that is going to fit your dating profile for money is going to be 50, 40, 50, 60-year-old men, and they're not going to always have six packs. That is your choices, okay? You got to bring that money number down and stop seeing height as a thing. Because neither one of those, one of them is going to lock you into the age range of 40 and up. The other one is going to lock you into a stupid number. You know, bend down if you want to look up at him and think, wow, he's 6 foot. It does not matter. It absolutely does not matter, okay? So I think females have a really screwed up version, today's females, of what they think a worthy man is. Now, here's a good twist. What used to be years ago, women wanted children. That was a mark of their happiness. You know what is now a mark of men's happiness? Having children and a family. And guess what women don't want most of the time? The dating pool is now stuck. I'm going to say this. Hear me, men out there. For men that are in their 25s to 35s, you know what age group actually has your same values that you've got right now? Gen X. Because Gen X remembers what it was like to value and honor a man. They're just behind the age wall where they're afraid. Men who are younger are looking at the younger females wanting all of these impossible things to happen. And because women haven't really thought this out yet, haven't thought out the fact that if you want someone with six figures, because you hear all these podcasts where these people say, oh, you're never going to find anyone with six figures. They're going, yes, I can. Let me tell you why you won't. I'm going to break it down. AI took entry-level jobs. The fastest way to make money is with computers or medical, right? We know this. All right? Entry-level jobs for both have gone away. So if you graduate from college and say you got a bachelor's, or worse yet, even a master's, you're trying to get entry level. If AI took it, how are you going to get a job that is going to make the kind of money that truly reflects the degree you just got? You were promised $100,000 if you were an engineer. AI took your $100,000 a year. What do you do now? So these ladies out here saying, I can find someone with, who's in computers, makes a lot of money. Okay, where? AI just took it. Where? Now where? The more money you want, the higher the age the male has to be because of things like AI. So what really irritates me about all of this is, I will go and listen to other life coaches talk about, the dating pool for men and women, and how depressed men are, and how you see women on TikTok saying, oh, well, if they don't get me a ring worth $50,000, blah, 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 you're going to be waiting a very long time. Because if you're waiting for today's 25-year-old men to make the kind of money you want, you're going to have to wait at least another 10 or to 15 years for them to make that kind of money. So if you're waiting for Tommy, who you think is hot with a six-pack, to make the $100,000 you're thinking when there's no entry-level jobs, you're going to be sitting there watching Tommy age just like you are aging. And then by the time Tommy makes the kind of money you want, and he's 35, so are you. And now you're out of the dating range if you wanted to have kids, because all these younger men out there, Tommy may not want kids with somebody 35. He may be wanting someone willing to look at him as an option while he's 35. So, ladies, you need to be thinking about what you're doing to yourself. You are actually hurting yourself with these kind of requirements that they got to have 100,000, blah, blah, blah. You need to look for a man that gives a fuck about you. Period. That has the same interests you have. That has goals like you do. To have, whatever you want. If you want to make $1 million, you both work on it together. But you don't get a man that starts at $1 million. You get a man who's at the 20,000 level, and you build him up with his emotions. You build him up to be strong. You build him up with him knowing you support him. You care about him. And you're going to be with him through the ups, through the downs, through the breakthroughs, through the falls. And when he hits that $1 million, or he hits that 100,000 like you want, that love you have for him will hold you guys together forever. So my point is, when I talk about unsung heroes, the unsung heroes used to be the men who would sweep you off your feet in a fantasy. And I remember these days. You always heard a man's going to come and sweep you off, and you're going to build a house and build a family and have, this huge, all this. I remember those days. All right? And nowadays, the only requirement back then, when you had your hero, is a man to actually like you, find you pretty, want you, care about you, want to take care of you, want to protect you physically. That was the requirement of a hero. Now, a lot of these younger women, what are their definitions of a hero? 6-pack abs, 6 feet, and at least 100,000 a year. You have created a hero that does not exist because it numerically can't. So I am singing, I call it talking about unsung heroes. I am trying to sing the truth for the unsung heroes. The men out there who are making either zero because they can't find a job, or they're making 30,000 or 20,000 or 15, or they're living with parents, can't afford shit right now. Because right now, this world is not designed for these men to do anything except hope to survive and then try to strategically figure out, well, shit, I can't do what I was planning on doing. Now what am I going to do to make money? And have to reorganize their life to find ways to live and to build up money. While you have these impossible scenarios of women wanting what society won't even let men have. Jobs. So why would men be out there in bars looking for y'all? Why would men be wanting to date women at all right now? You're asking them to do what they physically cannot do. You're asking them to jump off a building and fly. They don't have wings. They have no parachute. They got nothing. So I think women need to take their standards down just a little. And it isn't because you're not bringing anything to the table. Because let's say you are bringing money to the table. Why can't you support your man until he gets through the entry-level AI shit? Why can't you do that? Isn't that honor? Isn't that love? Why can't you? Right now, the only value system out of all these age ranges that I can see is the youngest generation that really gives a shit about men seems to be Gen X. It might be one generation earlier than Gen X, but that's it. After that, what they're wanting from men, what females are wanting from men, does not at all match what society is providing for men to even do. So it looks like a bunch of people just going to be alone, huh? Unless these 20, 30-year-olds start dating Gen X. You never know. They might treat you better. All right, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not I haven't even decided if I, put this in some kind of YouTube channel. What, it would be brand new. This would be my new one. I do have another YouTube channel. I do have um Twitch. I do stream. I'm active on social media. I just don't feel like using that name because I know how society is. And I know my opinion is not popular when it comes to some of today's female views. And I really don't want to deal with that bullshit. So you don't necessarily need to know everything about me and my background. You just need to listen to my words and think, is it possible that I am right? So if I do make a YouTube channel out of this, we'll see if anybody actually sees this video and hears it. Then I'll just keep talking about the same kind of stuff. You guys have a great day or night, whatever time frame you're at, and talk with you later. Got to pause my game now. You could just say I'm the female gamer. I'm kidding. There's a lot of female gamers. I don't want to take that name. All right, later, y'all.